All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're diving into the big international football matches for October 14th. We've got some key Asian Cup qualifiers and a really interesting UEFA World Cup qualifier to break down. So, let's see what the team news is telling us. So, right off the bat, here's the big picture. 5 key matches, 5 score predictions. And you'll probably spot the trend right away, right? We're expecting goals. Every single game is tipped to go over 2.5. But these numbers, they're just the start. The real story, the why behind these predictions, is all in the team news. And that's where we're going to dig in. Okay, let's kick things off in Asia. We're going to start with the match where we actually have some solid, confirmed intel to work with. First on our list is Nepal taking on Vietnam. We're calling a 3-1 win for Vietnam, which, you'll notice, sails right past that 2.5 goal mark. But, and this is a big but, Vietnam is walking into this game with some pretty serious holes in their defense. And that could be the opening Nepal is looking for. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Vietnam's got a real defensive headache on their hands. Their main center back, Bui Chien Dung, is almost certainly out with a back injury. Plus, their creative spark, Nguyen Quang Hai, is also on the sidelines. The coach might have to get creative and plug those gaps with some U23 players. The bottom line here is pretty clear. Vietnam's backline is looking shaky. So, why does this matter so much? Well, take a look at the Group F standings. Vietnam's sitting in second, and they absolutely need this win to stay in the hunt. But for Nepal, they're stuck at the bottom with 0 points. This is basically their last stand. And with Vietnam's defense looking vulnerable, you have to think this is a huge chance for Nepal to make some noise. Now, let's move on to the other Asian Cup games. And this is where things get a little tricky because the information trail kind of goes cold. And it's really important for us to be upfront about what we know and, well, what we just don't. And I've got to be straight with you on this one. For these next couple of matches, we've hit a wall, a total data blackout. We've looked everywhere for solid, confirmed team news, but there's just nothing reliable out there. And that means any prediction is really just based on form, which, let's be honest, comes with a lot more risk. So for these 3 games, Hong Kong versus Bangladesh, Philippines against East Timor, and Malaysia versus Laos, our predictions are based on what we've seen lately and how these teams usually match up. We're still leaning towards big wins for the home teams, but it's super important to remember we're kind of flying blind here without knowing exactly who's fit to play. All right, let's switch gears and head over to Europe for a UEFA World Cup qualifier. We've got Estonia versus Moldova, and here, thankfully, the data is a lot clearer. In fact, it tells a pretty one-sided story. Yeah, we're feeling pretty confident about this one. We're predicting a 3-1 win for Estonia, and once again, that easily clears the over 2.5 goals line. And honestly, when you look at the team news for both squads, it just all points in this direction. For Estonia, the home team, it's all good news. Their captain, Karl Metz, is back, and that is a huge deal for their central defense. He's going to bring so much stability to their backline. And on top of that, we know Karl Hein is starting in goal, so they've got a really solid presence there. But for Moldova, it's a completely different story, and it's a rough one. They're going to be without their all-time top goal scorer, Jan Niculescu. He's out injured. And I mean, you really can't overstate how massive that blow is to their attack. He is their attack. To make matters worse, some of their other attacking options are also maybes at best. And look, it's not just their attack that's in trouble. Their defense? It's been leaking goals like a sieve all through this qualifying campaign. They just concede way too many chances, which is not what you want when you're playing away against a team that's going to come at you. This quote from the betting previews pretty much nails it. The consensus is that Estonia should really take care of business here. When you take away Moldova's main goal threat and combine that with their shaky defense, well, it just feels like a perfect storm for an Estonian win. So let's just step back for a second and look at the big picture here. This is a perfect example of how the availability or, the unavailability of just 1 or 2 key players can totally flip the script in an international match. This really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, in the players out column, you've got Moldova losing their entire offensive identity without Niculescu, and you've got Vietnam with a big question mark in their defense because Dung is out. But then on the other side, players in, Estonia gets this huge boost with their captain Metz returning. It's a tale of 2 very different fortunes. All right, let's boil this all down. Time for the final briefing. If you only remember a few things from our breakdown today, make it these. So, to wrap it all up, first, Vietnam's defense looks vulnerable, and that could give Nepal a real shot to do something. Second, Moldova is going to have a really tough time creating anything without their top scorer. Third, Estonia is getting a massive defensive upgrade with their captain's return. And finally, don't forget, for 3 of those Asian Cup matches, we're working with limited info, so just be aware of that.
And that just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've seen how these key injuries are creating huge problems for teams like Moldova and Vietnam. So the real question is, which underdog, maybe a team like Nepal, has the best shot to take advantage of that and pull off a huge surprise? Definitely something to think about.